It is time for us to implement updating entries in our server. How is this going to work? We're going to edit a particular entry, change some stuff, and when we click save, if it's all valid, we're going to send an AJAX call to our server. In our server side, in our imaginary server side, you'll be grabbing this information, you probably want to run some validation on it, and if it's all good, you're going to update your database entry. Then you want to notify the client by sending back a response that everything was good or there were some errors. In our example, everything was good, so we get the simulated AJAX response. You can have any kind of format for this, the one you normally use, the way you normally work as a developer. In our case, this is just a simple object that says success 1. That means that everything was successful. You could, of course, include any kind of information in here. Now, let's go to our JavaScript code and implement this. We're going to use HTTP again. We're going to use post, but you could also use put if that's the way you normally work on your server. In my case, my local Apache storage that I'm using in this example doesn't support put, so I'm using post. But feel free to use whatever you normally use, the way you normally work in your server side. Data/update.json is the path, the URL where we're updating this. It could be example.com/yourapplication/ some other things. We want to send the entire object. Upon successful response, we get a response from the server. Upon successful request, we get a response from the server, and if that response contains a success property that exists, you could say =1 or have any kind of code that you want here. It really depends on how you want to define your responses. If that is all good, then we finally update our client-side listing. And we'll do that just by using the exact same code that we had before, which is extending update to update, which is the object on the list, with all the properties from entry. So all of the properties from entry will be copied onto to update. That's all this is doing. Let's have a test. Let's see if this works. Go update one entry, change it to foods, save. See how now it says foods in here. What happened in our network? Let's look at our network panel. We will find the AJAX call to update.json, and the response from the server was success 1. That means that your response was successful, therefore this code was executed. If for some reason your response wasn't successful, or you had if you had an error, we can add that code as well. Data status, you could have you could show an alert. So in some cases you'll return an error status from the server. In some web applications they don't return an error, they return a normal response, but for some reason it wasn't successful, so the information will be in it. So in this case, if we try that again and we try foot2, in this case that wasn't updated because it wasn't successful. So as you can see, updating in the server is just working with AJAX again, just like when we did with creation. It's very, very simple.